Before you hired me, before you joined closesales.com, where were you at monthly revenue wise?
It ranged between 25 to 75K per month.
And then what did we do last month in December?
155K revenue, and then cash collected was about 90K. Like my close rate before working with you was very high. Like it was around 60%. Now it's over 90%.
Here today with my client, Alex. We're kind of in the middle of working together. We're not even finished up yet, but super excited to have you jump on and share your results because the astronomical growth that you've had in such a short amount of time, I know will inspire and also empower a ton of other coaches and consultants that are looking to scale their business. So, dude, thank you so much for jumping on. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's kick off with the numbers, man. Like before you hired me, before you joined closesales.com, where were you at monthly revenue wise?
Yeah, so it ranged between 25 to 75K per month.
Okay. And then what did we do last month in December?
155K revenue, and then cash collected was about 90K.
What did we do to make such a big difference? That's incredible. Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. We had one coaching call. That's literally all we did. I mean, of course, I watched the course, um, but as far as what was actually changed on a tactical level, you helped me dial in the pitch specifically. It was way too long, way too technical. Um, it also wasn't tying to a basic description of what the client's pain points were. And that, of course, helps dial in the discovery phase as well. But really, the biggest pain point was having a proper pitch. The discovery, I think, was probably 80% of the way there, but that 20% has also made a huge difference as well. And then specifically with the pitch, of course, you have your pillar structures. So we simplified it and categorized the actual offer into an understandable way. I think that's probably, to say it like most simply, um, you helped me articulate what the actual value is of the offer inside of a sales conversation.
Yeah, because your problem is you're way too smart. Like your brain is too big. You've been doing this for too long. Like you have such a ridiculous amount of information in your brain. Obviously, it can be difficult to pull different pieces of information out of your brain and put them on the table in a sales conversation. And it was really simple for me, like third party vantage point as we reviewed one of your sales calls and broke it down. I'm like, dude, this is super overwhelming. Like, you sound crazy smart, but it's just going to lead to like, dude, can you send this to me in writing? Like, let me check in with my team. Let me make sure I have the bandwidth to do this. Now that you've simplified it and you're just giving them what they need, not all of these other bells and whistles, it's easier for them to digest and ultimately buy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the challenge is it's a unique offer to sell. I don't have any competitors, and there's not a lot because of that. There's not a lot to compare to as far as what the buyer's awareness is. Um, and something to note as well for the audience is that I have no personal brand. I don't run ads. I have no organic content, and my business has been driven by a really amazing network, and also referrals. And so, because there is a lack, and I'm not saying that's optimal, by the way, I'm just saying that's what the case is and has been the case the whole time and is now changing. But because there is a lack of personal brand, I didn't have the ability to preemptively demonstrate authority. I didn't have the ability to preemptively demonstrate value. It was just based on the word that the prospects got from whoever referred them or what they might have heard, inside of the network. And so when they were getting on sales calls, I had to kind of manually deliver that, so to speak. And so because there was a lack of awareness of who I am, there's a lack of awareness for what the offer is. The sales calls ended up being just a lot of speaking on my end, and the words that I was saying were very technical and just too much. And it's not to say what I was doing was wrong per se in regards to solving the problem of giving that awareness. It just wasn't optimal. And to be clear too, it did work. Like my close rate before working with you was very high. Like it was around 60%. Now it's over 90%. So I've closed, from my perspective, like literally everyone that I have gotten on calls with in the past 2 months. Like some of those people I haven't even had to get on calls with. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the momentum that was generated with the sales calls that I did close. Somehow that's just carried over on an energetic level. But my point in saying all of that is this wasn't the it's very clear because of the isolated variables of not having any marketing systems at all, not having any personal brand whatsoever, not having the things that would be able to um, nurture a prospect to the point where you don't need to have a high level of sales skills. Because I don't have those things, it's very, very clear that the thing that actually moved the needle was an increase in sales skills. And again, specifically, it was dialing in the language that was used on the call with the pitch specifically. And also, there's nuanced things as well that you teach about, like transitioning from each phase of the sales call into the next, tying previous items that were discussed in those phases to the next one so that you're opening and closing loops and creating context for everything. Um, but yeah, I think that's important for people to understand that uh, it was very obviously just the sales coaching that you provided that caused the results.
I appreciate that. And for somebody watching this, now you have them on the edge of their seat. Like, what is this guy's offer? He said he has no competition. So, like, I know you could talk about it for 6 months because you're really damn good at what you do, but give us like 30-second overview of who you help and what you do, just so the audience understands.
Yeah, I mean, I can say really simply. So I help coaches scale with the clients that they already have. And the way that we do that is by building client success machines, we call them. And those generate results, referrals, renewals, and ascensions on autopilot. And then once that's installed, I help train teams to use it.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's why, because you and I have known each other for a little bit before we started working together. I think that's why we've always clicked so well. Because like the only thing we really care about is client success. I go super hard with my client success. You went even harder and created an entire offer around it, which is just like super sick. And I love it because I selfishly want to help you close as many people as humanly possible because the result of people working with you is better client success, which gives the coaching industry as a whole a better name because the people that are buying from me and obviously from you and your clients are going to get incredible results, which is important that people spend money and actually get results from whatever the offer is that they bought. So selfishly, I'm on a mission to help you close damn near everyone in the space so we can get some better client success for all these people.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, we do generate really crazy results, and like you said, the thing that's the cool that the impact that we generate for our clients affects their clients. And so when I first started I've been running at least this iteration of the company for over 3 years now, and I had previously worked for a very successful company. I was the head of their client success. We upscaled it to 8 figures in less than 3 months. It was a really crazy ride, but and they do have an amazing client success system and department, by the way. They do generate really, really high levels of success, especially for the scale. They have like 30,000 clients. So it's pretty crazy to be able to manage that and consistently generate results in that situation. Um, but I felt like I wasn't, with the opportunity that I had to do my own thing, I wanted to have a level of impact that I wasn't necessarily having in my previous opportunity. And the way that I thought about being able to facilitate that was exactly as you just mentioned, like facilitating something that would impact not just my clients, but everyone that they encounter as well. So it's kind of like impact at scale. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned too, like the how dedicated you are to client success. It's actually a point that I would like to marketing and sales is two sides of the same coin. And I disagree with that. I actually don't think marketing and sales are as connected as people think that they are. I actually believe that sales and client success, say that is because the way that I see the job of client success managers and client success departments in general is to move clients down a client success pipeline in the same way that a sales rep would move a lead down a sales pipeline. And the end point of a coaching program should be another sale. And so when you think about it, it really is a sales role. And it's the difference is that you're not necessarily selling them on a, one call to buy a product. You're selling them in a lot of cases, at least through their journey inside of the program to do the work and to believe in themselves. And then, of course, eventually we do kind of sell them into like referrals, testimonials, case studies, renewals, upsells, all that stuff. Uh, but the other thing about it too is that the discovery to a well executed coaching call.
I love that you make seven figures and you still have dog shit Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
dude,
I heard
you
everything.
know,
I think it was breaking up a little bit. I think you're moving out of that spot into a new spot, but it is hilarious the amount of money you're making and you work on the internet and your Wi-Fi has been super spotty lately. You prioritize client success in scaling your company, right? But if you had to look at me personally as a coach to you and just like you see my clients, you know a lot of my clients, like how would you describe me just as a coach inside of my program and like what I do with my clients? Because I ask you specifically because you view everything through the lens of client success.
yep.
So I actually deeply care about your answer because it's credible and like holds weight to me. So I'm curious, like honest feedback here, like how do you view me in terms of like how I take care of my clients and help them generate results?
Yeah, if I had to describe it in one word, it would be simple. If I had to go into detail about that, I would say that you've created a, so there's this term in like the video game space, kind of a nerdy term of min-maxing. So the idea is that you minimize the amount of inputs to maximize the amount of outputs. And so another way to say that is like minimum effective dose, essentially. Um, but it's not effective dose, it's like a maximal effect, right? And so the way that you've set up your client success entire system, which in my mind includes the course, it includes the coaching calls, it includes the community, it includes how you manage all that stuff on the back end with your systems. Um, it is only the things that you actually need, which I think is very important for the way that you run your business because you don't have any client success managers. It's just you, which I think is another point that people should understand as well if they haven't, you know, taken the leap to work with you. They're going to be working with you specifically. They're not working with the coach. They're not working with um, anybody that isn't you. And that's very rare. For you to be able to do the amount of revenue that you do, being able to still manage that pretty much as a solo team. I mean, you have, your brother helps you, and then you have like maybe another assistant here and there, but
I have
that's
an
pretty
appointment
much,
setter.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
one
that's,
one personal assistant inside the business and then one appointment setter, but that will change for anybody watching this. Like
yeah.
eventually I will max out on bandwidth, but I kind of built the company to do 250, 350K a month without needing a big team because like dude, I love being involved. Like I don't want to pass it off. What do I do all day if I pass everything off?
Yeah, yeah. So the point in saying that is it's very effective and it works. I mean, we can go down into each step of the process too. I think the onboarding process is good. You just get straight into the work and like really just, yeah, exactly that. That
You're the
first,
one that made me not redo all my modules because I was gonna update them with like the cool background and the mic and everything. And you and your brother were like, dude, you can't. Like these modules are so good. Like you are actually the influence because I had it like slated on my calendar like a couple weekends in a row. I was gonna refilm everything. It was probably gonna take 50, 60 hours. And you were like, bro, they're so good, don't do it. So you're the
yeah.
reason why I didn't do that.
Well, that's good because you don't need to, at least yet. I mean, maybe later when, you start scaling to eight figures and you want to just kind of have everything look like it's an eight figure, kind of brand, so to speak. It's not to say that the value isn't there. It obviously is. But at scale, you tend to deal with different levels of clientele. So sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a shield, so to speak, with how things look. But the content, it doesn't need to get changed because it is exactly what it needs to be. And I think that's a really important note with client success stuff is less is more in most cases. Like, and we can think about this too on a principle level as well. The main thing that we do in my company is we reduce time to value as close to zero as possible. And at the same time, we maximize lifetime value. And to be clear, time to value is just how long it takes for a client to receive the thing that they purchased. It's whatever the outcome is. And so if it's 10K per month, how long does it take for them to get to 10K per month? And then, of course, lifetime value is just how much money people pay you over the course of them working with you, the entire client relationship, right? And so when we have things that we make clients do that get in the way of having the shortest time to value as possible, that's not helping them. And it's also not helping us make as much money from them as possible because the thing that's going to get them to pay for the next thing is the solving of the previous problem that then created the next problem that you're going to help them solve. And the quicker that we can make this stuff happen, the more results they get and the more money we make. It's a symbiotic relationship in that way. And so when you have course lessons that are, um, just superfluous and going into things that aren't necessary, if they're too long, if you're talking about shit that you don't need to be talking about, if it's not organized in a proper way, it just slows things down. And your program is like a straight line system. You just go from step one to step two to step three to step four, and it just makes sense. Um, there's no unnecessary calls that you have to get on. Um, Also, to the way that you set up the group calls does actually continue to move them down the pipeline. And that's also because you're focused on solving one specific problem. You're just helping people close more. That's it. And that's all you need to do. Of course, you have a higher level program where you help them do that at scale by, training and building out a team. But at the end of the day, that's still the same problem. You're just having somebody else do it and multiple somebody else's do it, right? And of course, there's complexities that come with that. But I think because you've been very disciplined in only solving one problem, and I think because that discipline has reflected itself in the client experience, it's made things very smooth, very simple, and very effective.
I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, coming from you holds a lot of weight because I know you know this stuff in client journey and experience better than anyone I've ever come across. Probably everyone I know combined might come up to like half the level that you understand this stuff at. So I appreciate that for sure. Thank you.
The community is really nice too. I mean, that's a really important note as well. Um, it's hard to get communities to engage. It's hard to get them to stay engaged after you do that as well. And it's that's just one piece of the puzzle. You also need the engagement to be of high quality.
Yeah.
Like for me, like you want the community to be cool. You want there to be people in there that you would actually hang out with. And I think a lot of this stuff happens automatically, right? Like you kind of just attract people that resonate at a similar frequency to you. They have similar values and they see the world in a similar way. And if not similar, it's at least compatible. And you've managed to do that. And so, the feeling of being inside the program is nice. It's supportive. It feels cool. I don't feel like I also don't feel like I have to do things that I don't need to do, which is another important note for me personally. Because like I'm running a fucking company, and so are the rest of your clients. And um, yeah, I don't feel bothered. I'm just receiving very effective help from you. And like I said, we literally got on one coaching call and I hit a record month and my close rate went to 90%. And again, that
Uh,
record month was 155K in revenue and 90K cash collected. That's pretty
yeah.
sick.
Tell them about that video you sent me when you were kind of chatting behind my back, like with your team after the first coaching call. And then I think you had your team review that coaching call as well. I'd love for you to give like 2 minute overview and kind of the synopsis of that call. Cause when you sent it to me, I was sitting eating some dinner and you sent me a random video and I was like, oh, what's this? And I started watching it and it was like, dude, like I didn't cry, but I was like definitely emotional. And I was like, dang, like if like this is how people talk behind my back. And it like my only desire is good client success. Like I just want people to win. I just want people to pay me and be like, dude, you're stupid for how little you charge me for how much I got in terms of money, impact, the way that I view in my perception of the world. Like that's all I care about. Cause like, dude, I make enough money. I have my dream house, dream car. Like, I don't really technically need to make more money. I'll be okay. And money just gets boring anyway. But impact on the world, like individuals saying like, dude, I'm crediting you with changing the trajectory of my life, that's what really feels good and never gets old. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that video that you had sent me. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So for context on that, we're scaling pretty rapidly here, and it's not that I don't want to get on sales calls. I know a lot of people hate getting on sales calls. I kind of like it actually. I can't say that I'm like fully in love with it, but I definitely like it a lot.
Well, when you
And I
close
also
at
think,
90% makes it a little more enjoyable, you know?
yeah, and
Everybody
to
who
be,
hates sales calls has a shitty close rate, and that's why they hate it because they waste so much time with objections that they don't know how to handle and how to run a proper call to get people to buy. Of course they hate it. They're just burning 10, 15 hours a week doing something that they're not getting paid for.
yeah, and also too, like I know anyone who gets on the call that's actually qualified, I am their best shot at solving their problems. And I don't, and that's another thing. Like we don't solve more than just one. There's a lot of them, but um, that's exciting. It really is, and it brings a certain level of conviction, which makes it feel fun and cool to get on sales calls. But um, point being though is that like as we're scaling, as we all know, you have a lot of shit to do as a CEO. Things get more complicated as teams get built out and stuff, and in order for us to hit the goals that we are hitting, I can't be a sales bottleneck for the company. So obviously, we brought on a closer. He's currently in training right now. Part of that training is to get on calls with you, with all three of us being on that call, watching the call recordings, taking notes, putting together his own semblance of sales script, which obviously you provide a template for that. And from that, this was actually, yeah, it was right after that first call, the end of November. And so he, yeah, just reviewed it. I got on a call with him and actually one of your other clients, Alex Gould, who is a close friend of mine. And that's another point as well, is like the power of having a network. Me, Austin, we've known each other for over a year now. From knowing each other, you have made a lot of money from specific, referrals and partnerships that I've helped facilitated. You've done the same thing for me. That's just the power of really good relationships. And one example, there's dozens of examples, but one of the examples is Alex Gould. And I don't know if you already have an interview with him on the channel, but he just to say his story really quickly, like he was living in a tent and from 1 month of working with Austin hit 50K in his first month of, inside the program. That is extremely life changing for someone in that situation. And again, he wasn't homeless, by the way. There was a mold situation in the house. But regardless, when you're dealing with a health issue like that, there's very limited bandwidth and you need money to fix that stuff. And when we talk about impact, like the money is a means to an end. Like that 50K actually did something for him. And he was helping us. We have, you know, a number of things that we're working on as far as like lead generation and client acquisition goes. One of them is a lead list. And so he's really good at cold email. So we just got on a call to talk about that. The reason why you came up is because, and this is also an important note, working with you helps dial in the marketing message as well. Now, the marketing and sales message are not exactly the same, but the sales is just a deeper version of the marketing. That was the way I would think about it. Um, and so because you were able to simplify the way that we communicate about what we do, that then had an effect on the copy that was being written for the cold emails. Um, and because you were the one who facilitated that, then we started to discuss how that call went specifically. Uh, Gabe, our closer, he knows me personally as well. He lives in Orlando. And so, we've hung out a lot. And he was impressed with the dynamic that we had because he's never seen someone properly coach me before. He's only seen me in a position of leadership, and so that was interesting for him to observe that on multiple levels. And then the second thing was really Alex going much deeper on his relationship and experience with you. I can't remember specifically the because he said a lot of special things that I haven't heard someone else say about you before, and they were all true as well. Um, I know it was obviously in line with everything we've already talked about here, but more or less what he said is that you changed his life. And the way that essentially it's centered around your authenticity and your ability to identify and also tell the truth, which is also kind of just what happens in coaching calls, right? You're just really good at identifying what the actual problem is and what the true solution is. So,
Yeah, and I'm never afraid to share that truth. That's what you paid me for, right? So it's like
yeah.
Zach Reyna, I have a testimonial from him as well. He was actually in person at my house when we were doing a retreat, and he said the same thing. And he's like, "Dude, I didn't even like you when I hired you." He's like, "But I knew you would always tell me the truth." And I didn't need someone that I liked and like that would just be a yes man and tell me what I wanted to hear. I needed somebody who was willing to step up from a place of authoritative leadership and tell me what I needed to hear so I could advance the trajectory of my business. Right. And it's not that I'm mean, I'm just honest. And it's like I've been doing this for so many years with so many 7 and 8 figure companies. Like I know how to build these companies. And if you're blatantly doing something wrong, like I'm just going to shine light on it and say, hey, like, you ever thought about doing it this way? And then when it starts to click and it starts to work, every single one of my clients likes me later. Right. So I'm willing to take a temporary loss of social esteem. And then once they get in the program and they start getting results, they're like, dude, you changed my life. Thank you. So yeah, that clip was really special, man. Like you sent it to me. I think it was like 8 or 10, 12 minutes of you guys just like Gabe talking about the dynamic on the coaching call he watched, and then you talking about like, dude, like I've had coaches in the past, like no one's just shot me straight like that and like help me make these decisions that are going to
Well, yeah,
advance the
they're
way that I do
afraid to.
calls.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. They're afraid to do that. The other thing, actually, I just remembered, which kind of came up when you talked about Zach's perception of you initially. Um, you do lend yourself toward a certain perception that could essentially see someone as perceiving you as to be a douche, basically. As someone who's hung out with you a lot in person, and for anyone like we're friends, by the way, for anyone watching this, right? But also this is a professional relationship we have as well, in which both of them are very separated. The thing about that specifically is, and this is what Alex was talking about as well, is very obvious that you actually care. Like it's extremely obvious. You just have to talk, have a conversation with you for literally fucking 5 minutes and you can tell. Um, and you're not a douche. You have a nice car and you just have a nice car. You like to go out, you like to make a bunch of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I think people can see that as long as they have um, just the ability to be able to perceive from like a 5 minute conversation. And the key point with that for me is that you want someone, when you have someone who has the balls to tell you the truth, that has to be balanced with someone who actually cares about you at the same time. Otherwise, that's has the potential to be like a genuinely abusive kind of conversation, which I've experienced before, multiple times. I'm sure you have as well, and that's not useful. Like it's communicating the truth like that is only useful to the extent that it actually helps somebody. And your ability to balance being direct, having that authoritative leadership, having the ability to identify the truth, but all of it is centered in this very obvious, very apparent feeling of love, real love, compassion, and support. And when people on a client success level, on a client experience level, people need that. Like, what's one of the biggest complaints that people have when they go into large programs, right? It's like, oh, I just got shoved into like a cookie cutter program. I didn't really get any one-on-one support. It didn't really seem like anybody cared.
Yep.
That's kind of basically what it is. And of course, they don't get results from that. You are the polar opposite of that with your character, with the way that's reflected inside of your program. Um, and yeah, you treat everyone around you extremely well. And it's not for ulterior motives. You just are a really good man.
Dude, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
see, like conversations like these are why I do what I do. And it is true. Like the way that I kind of lend myself on social media and this and that, like I appear to have like a very masculine, rough, tough exterior. And like the way people perceive me, like on the internet and stuff like that, like I don't really care because I know that my heart, my intentions, like how much I care and love people, especially the people that pay me. Like I will go to war for them every day of the week and ensure that they get results and they're taken care of. But I think it is a very good distinction of what you said. Like you have to balance like directness and masculinity and just giving it to people straight from a place of compassion and care. And I also do that on my sales calls, right? Like I'm like, hey, like, can I give you a little bit of feedback here? And this is not a client, this is a sales call. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? Because you're probably not going to like it, but like I've been doing this a long time and I know it's kind of what you need to hear. Probably not what you want to hear, but like, are you cool with that? So I get like a double, triple tie down that like, yes, I'm open to the feedback. And then I just shoot them straight. And if they buy from me, great, I'll change their life. And if they don't buy from me, great, that conversation in that moment will be a firm enough kick in the ass that they will go get the help that they need so they can change the trajectory of their life and their business. And if I leave them better than I found them, then I win. Whether I got a credit card
Yep.
or not, my close rate is hovering right around yours, 91%, so like most of the time I get a credit card, but on the off chance, the 9% chance that I don't, that's okay because I've given them what they needed to shape their life in a better way. And I can live with that. I can sleep good at night knowing that. So I appreciate you kind of walking the audience through that. I think you're doing a really good job of like shining light behind the scenes, right? Because like you only know so much before you join a program. And it's nice, like, not just on a sales call, but to hear from somebody like you to kind of like shine light behind the scenes of like how it is on the inside. So I appreciate you doing that. And dude, I'm really proud of you. I've known you for a little over a year now. We've gotten dinner multiple times. I think it's your turn to buy next time, but
Yeah,
now
it
you're a
is my
client,
turn.
so I feel obligated. I want to buy, but I know we've been trading off with that for a better part of a year. So, dude, really proud of you. Really excited. Love the offer. I know your clients are happy, and then obviously the ripple effect because your client is happy means they have better client success, which means the ripple effect to all of their clients. Like we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people every single year. And then you extrapolate that over a decade, like there's going to be millions upon millions of people that lead and live better lives because these companies bought your offer and worked with you. And selfishly, that's why I want to help you enroll damn near everyone because the ripple effect to millions of people that I get to have through you closing more sales, it's really special. So, dude, I'm excited to see what you do in 2025, man. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks, man.